they really scare me.
Yeah, I don't mind snakes, but I really don't like spiders. Just any size, they're all creepy
And then, I don't know, I still get scared of the dark a little bit. I'm almost going to be an adult and I still sleep in the nightlight, so. I feel like you have the fight or flight tendency.
Yeah, definitely.
So you either, like if something scares you, you're either going to like, and like try to fight it off or run away or like.
Yeah, that's so true. Usually you see it and then you freak out. But my first instinct is to like kill a spider or something, get rid of it. But I don't know, it still scares you, so you're always like, oh.
Like you see those videos of like people scaring their friends, and the reactions are either their friends like freaking out and like moving back, or like hitting them without meaning to.
Fight or flight.
Yeah. Wasps.
Really?
Well, yeah.
I feel like people are always really afraid of snakes, definitely. Or like you, or spiders.
But then in terms of like feelings, I think a lot of people have fearful reactions to commitment and maybe like the unknown. I know a lot of people, especially our age, are scared of the future and what their life is going to turn out like. That's a pretty common fear.
A lot of people always say like their fears of like serial killers or like terrorists or something. I'm pretty sure like that's everyone's fear, but when you no one actually says like what are you afraid of, they're like, oh, serial killers. That doesn't happen.
I think exposure probably. I mean, not necessarily in the form of like someone being afraid of a serial killer. You're not going to go and like confront a bunch of serial killers to like not be afraid of them, but like in terms of snakes and spiders, it's easier to handle when you've like taken care of it instead of just like sweeping it under the rug. I mean, not actually. I would not want a snake under the rug. But
if someone were to tell me like to face your fear of spiders, you need to like get in a bathtub of spiders, I would be like, no, never.
But then also maybe immersion, which is kind of the same as exposure. So in terms of being scared of like the future, I know what helps me is like talking to someone, like talking to my mom or talking to the guidance counselor, and they can usually help you figure out like what steps you're going to take, so then you kind of have something laid out instead of like jumping into this pit of what the heck is going on.
Yeah, I think that if people really like understand why they're scared of what they're scared of and what's making them scared of that, then that's like definitely a big factor as like that plays into like overcoming that fear.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
Yeah.
Like hostile.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Well, that's just a common fear of like blood and needles and stuff. But also, one day there was a blood drive at the high school, and Luke and I gave blood, and we both passed out. And then we ended up going back to his house and watching Hostel, which is this scary movie about like a hostel in
Europe or something. And it's basically like Saw. It's extremely like bloody and gory. I don't recommend it.
And just like not a good idea, and definitely like the people that produce and create horror movies know what's gonna make people go like ooh, or like get scared, like when they have stuff jump out and you hear everyone go ah.
Like some people, like I don't know if you guys have seen Human Centipede, like the person that made that movie is extremely like effed up, like I'm sorry, but like I don't know whose mind thinks like that, but then there are other movies like Paranormal Activity kind of movies, and I'm not necessarily saying that they're like extremely scary, but things like that definitely like.
I think the people that made Paranormal Activity definitely did a good job with the scare factor, because as opposed to horror movies where there are like life-size dolls or monsters. They're in Paranormal Activity. It's ghosts, and it's filmed with just a little dinky camera. And so it makes the viewer feel like that's something that can actually happen to them. So I think there are a lot of different approaches to that.
And then like the movie When a Stranger Calls, it's not like a very scary movie, but it's scary to the point that like the thought of, because it could easily happen, like a teenager just babysitting and someone keeps calling the house and like, did you check on the children? Like that could easily happen. That's why it's like, I think that's what horror movie directors are getting towards.
Yeah. Insidious too?
Yeah, definitely Insidious.
Oh god, that was bad.
Yeah.
It was so scary.
That movie is like I don't know. I think any movies that scare me the most are movies with like definitely like ghosts and stuff like that.
And that had a lot of suspense. It had a lot of like by the end of it, my brain was like scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
It just like twists your thoughts around. Yeah. And there are a lot of things that jump out at you. Mm-hmm. And there are also like real life things that could happen. And so the whole thing is like, ooh.
Yeah, and I also think that the Paranormal Activities, I know a lot of people probably don't think this, but I think when I first saw them, they were pretty scary. Like, especially the scene, and I don't know which one, I think it happens in both of them, where it just like all happens so fast, all of a sudden the girl's running and like she just falls down and starts being dragged. Like, I think everyone was like super scared by that. I think that the suspense is what makes the popping out so scary.
Yeah. That's kind of hard because I can see the side of both. Like I can see the popping out where in the moment and maybe for the next like few minutes, your heart rate gets up and you get all like scared because you were scared like that all of a sudden. But then also in terms of the real life things that can actually happen, that's also scary because then like years down the road, I'll like turn my light off, turn my light on to go to sleep, and I'll be lying in bed and then I'm like, there's a demon in my closet. And I like remember the movies that I've watched that do real life.